Cale Thorne never liked stars. They always seemed too clean, too silent, too distant. Not like the guts of a ship, where the work was real, where oil and rust clung to your fingers and breath steamed in frozen corridors. But now, looking up at a burning violet sky, gasping on cracked lips, blood drying in his boots, Cale thought maybe he had misjudged them. The stars weren't clean at all. They were cold. And cold, he realized, could burn worse than fire. The desert that stretched across the surface of Tenebra shimmered in midday heat, but Cale's body felt like it had been dunked in ice water. The emergency pod had slammed into the surface hours ago, shredding metal across jagged ridges and leaving a path of scorched debris in its wake. Cale had somehow crawled clear before it caught fire. He wasn't sure how long he lay there. Time was meaningless in pain. Minutes warped. Hours looped. His hands shook as he pressed them against the shredded fabric at his side. Blood oozed slowly between his fingers, dark, thick, and far too much of it. You have 20 minutes. Maybe 30. His engineer's mind refused to go quietly. It calculated. Processed. Survived. No medkit. No water. No beacon. You are alone. Except he wasn't. Not yet. The wind carried whispers. He turned his head, just a little, and the world tilted. Footsteps crunched against rust-colored sand. A figure approached, backlit by the blistering light. Not human. Tall. Slender. Blue-skinned, wearing something that moved like liquid. She knelt beside him, definitely a she, and for a moment, Cale thought he'd already died. Her features were almost too perfect, like sculpted glass. Her eyes were impossibly wide, deep violet, glowing faintly. An Asari. He'd seen surveillance footage before. Rare. Avoidant. Said to live beneath the sands of Tenebra in organic tunnels. Rumored to be telepaths. Possibly dangerous. Definitely real. The woman touched something on her wrist. A display lit up in curling, unfamiliar glyphs. She said something to someone behind her in that strange fluid language, half melody, half clicks. Cale coughed, wet and sharp. Your friend's bleeding. The words tasted like iron. His lungs felt like cracked glass. She didn't respond. Behind her, Cale could just barely see another body slumped in the sand. Smaller. Male. Unmoving. Burn marks scorched one side of his torso. He needed pressure, or he'd bleed out just like Cale. You need to press the wound. Do you understand? Cale's voice cracked. They'll die if you don't. The woman tilted her head. A shadow passed overhead. A mechanical whir. Cale's blood turned colder than before. He didn't even need to look. He knew that sound. Earthfleet tech. A sterilizer drone. Sleek. Efficient. Merciless. Cale's eyes flicked toward it, and then to the figure watching from the ridge. A human soldier. His armor was dull and worn, not standard issue. Recon gear. Maybe a scout. Helmet on. Rifle at the ready. But he hadn't fired yet. What was he waiting for? The drone beeped. Its sensors locked. A soft whine as its charge began to build. Cale didn't think. He just moved. Pain shot through his abdomen as he dragged himself forward, each motion an agony. But he got there. Just in front of the wounded Asari male. He threw himself between them and the drone. Don't shoot, he gasped. Not them. Not. The drone's targeting system shifted. Red laser flicked across Cale's back. He braced himself. Nothing. Then, a flash. A noise. Metal cracked. Cale blinked. The drone spiraled, smoking, then crashed to the ground in pieces. Behind it, the soldier on the ridge lowered his weapon. He gave one last glance, then disappeared. The Asari woman stared at the ruined drone, then back at Kale. Her lips parted. He smiled faintly, eyes fluttering. "Run," he whispered. And then, darkness. The second time Kale woke up, it was cold. Not freezing. Cool. Clean. Dry air moved gently against his skin. The pain was distant, muffled, as if tucked beneath layers. He tried to sit up but found something soft and warm restraining him. Not ropes, fabric. It pulsed faintly, wrapped around his torso like living gauze. He blinked. The ceiling above him shimmered. Not metal. Not stone. Something in between. Like living crystal. Patterns of color shifted with movement beyond it, painting the room in slow cascades of violet and green. He heard footsteps. Then her voice. "You are awake." Kale turned his head, carefully this time. The Asari woman stood in the archway. She had changed clothes, dark fabric shaped like a flowing suit, marked by pale circles over her chest and hips. Her hair fell in silver waves down her back, and her face remained unreadable. "I am Selen," she said. Language alignment complete. Kale swallowed. "Where am I?" "Below the surface. You are in Asari territory. The city of Virelin." He sat up slowly. Pain throbbed, but dulled. The bandages over his stomach glowed faintly with bluish pulses. "You saved me." She blinked. "You were dying. But you saved Lyric. Our healer stabilized you." "Why?" Kale asked, voice rough. "Why save me?" Selen tilted her head. "You shielded one of ours. Risked your life. This contradicts everything I have been taught." Kale leaned back, exhaling. "And what is that?" he asked. "That humans are only capable of domination. Of greed. That your kind has never protected what it does not own." Kale chuckled bitterly. "Not far off some days." Selen studied him. "But you did." He said nothing. Finally, she moved closer. A small device projected a hologram between them. The image was unmistakable, the orbital station, now a smoking ruin. "We monitored the explosion. You came from there. We detected military encryption prior to the event. Then silence. Then destruction." Kale looked away. "It was Earth Fleet," he muttered. "Not you. They did it to themselves. To us. To justify a war." Selen's eyes narrowed. "You have proof." "I saw the order before the blast. A contingency directive. To frame you. They sent a signal to every station officer to stay quiet and die for the greater cause. Why would your own people kill their own?" Kale's throat tightened. "We've done it before." A pause. Selen stood, quiet for a long moment. "We retrieved your suit. Is the data still on you?" Kale nodded. "There's a chip sewn into the collar lining. If it survived impact, it'll have the directive." She left without a word. Moments later, she returned with the shredded remains of his jumpsuit. He showed her the hidden seam. Selen extracted the chip, slotted it into her wrist device. And the room filled with a voice. "Command authorization received. Begin Operation Eventide. Phase 3. Targets, all primary crew. Frame responsibility to external factions. Secondary team to collect survivors for controlled media response. Ensure zero live escape." The message ended. Silence fell. Selen's hands were trembling. Kale noticed. "Now do you believe me?" She trailed off. He sat up straighter, ignoring the pain. "We don't have much time." If Earth fleet planned this, the invasion force is already inbound. They'll land and show the video of the destroyed station. Blame your people. Occupy the planet. That's the endgame. Selen's posture changed. No longer distant. Alert. Urgent. Our council must see this. In the days that followed, Kale remained inside the Asari city. He learned quickly. The Asari built with organic technology, crystal fused with plant, memory embedded in every wall. They didn't raise voices. Didn't speak emotions. Trust here wasn't a matter of words but action. Selen visited often. At first with caution. Then with questions. Kale answered them all. He told her about Earth, about its corporate wars, about the 1,000 reasons humans had to run from each other. And about the stars, how colonization had started with hope and ended with fear. She listened. Always with that impossible stillness. But something shifted. She laughed once. Only barely. A breath, a curve of her lips when he told her how he fell off a hydroladder and blamed it on 0G. And once, she touched his shoulder as he slept. He didn't know it until later. But he'd felt it. And on the 4th day, she came with urgency in her voice. The council accepts your evidence. But they want more. The backup station, your secondary data vault, is still partially intact, yes? Kale nodded. The science wing. If it wasn't destroyed, it'll have the logs. Everything. They've given us permission to go. You and I. No escort. If you betray me, I will end your life. Kale smiled. That's fair. She tossed him something. New clothes. Asari fabric, fitted to his frame. Lighter than anything he'd ever worn. You'll be less visible to patrols this way, Selen explained. He raised an eyebrow. You planning to shoot first or ask questions? I do not ask twice. Charming. She paused. That was sarcasm. He grinned. Just a little. For a heartbeat, he swore he saw her lips twitch. They left at dawn. Through tunnels of light and root. Across a world that hated them. Toward a truth neither side wanted to believe. Kale walked behind her, watching the way her body moved, like a dancer trained for war. Every step exact. Every motion quiet. And in that silence, beneath the ash-colored sky, with fire on the horizon and old machines buried in the sand, Kale realized something terrifying. He didn't want to go home. Selen Ire had never seen a human up close before Kale Thorne. She had read reports, studied filtered broadcasts, absorbed the curated horrors through educational arrays. The Asari called them the Shadowborn, driven by hunger for ownership, by violence passed down like inheritance. No rhythm to their movement. No code to their order. Impulse over principle. And yet, the man now walking beside her across the sands of Tenebrae did not move like a predator. He stumbled sometimes. His breathing was loud. He spoke too often, laughed too easily, and asked questions she had no words for. But his eyes, though ringed with fatigue and shadow, did not burn with conquest. They burned with something quieter. Sadder. She had tried, in the first days, to catalog him. To fit him within her understanding. But the more she looked, the more the pieces failed to align. Kale Thorne was a contradiction. A dying man who'd shielded a stranger. A witness to his own kind's betrayal. A creature of fire who spoke gently to the plants in her people's gardens when he thought no one was watching. He did not fit the mold. And that unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. They traveled northeast through the canyons where wind carried the dust like mist, turning the red desert into a storm of whispering silk. Selen walked in silence, leading through terrain that pulsed faintly with the aftereffects of ancient mining radiation. Kale broke the quiet. Again. You ever seen a thunderstorm? He asked. Selen didn't turn. No. He kicked a pebble that bounced off a rock. On Earth, they'd roll in over the coast. Just this low growl across the sea. You could feel it in your ribs. The first time I saw lightning I thought the sky was splitting open. She glanced back at him. Why do you tell me this? He shrugged. I don't know. Maybe because I think you'd like it. Selen looked away before he could read her expression. Thunder is chaos. Noise. It's also warning. Life. The promise of rain. She said nothing. But the thought stayed. That night, they made camp in the husk of an abandoned transport vehicle, half buried in the sand. Selen activated a thin energy barrier around the entrance. It hummed softly with protective frequency, deterring wildlife. Kale curled into the corner, legs folded beneath him. She sat across from him, pretending to study the terrain readings on her wristband. But she was aware of his gaze. The way he kept looking at her, not with fear, or awe, or suspicion, but with curiosity that made her skin itch. You're staring, she said finally. Kale didn't apologize. I've just never seen anyone who looks like you. She arched a brow. Because I am sorry. Because you're beautiful. Silence. It sat between them like an unexpected fracture. Selen stiffened, unsure how to respond. The word itself, beautiful, was meaningless in her culture. A subjective, irrational marker humans assigned based on aesthetic pleasure. But the way he said it made her ears warm. You say things without purpose, she muttered. I say them because I mean them, he replied, voice softer. Doesn't need to be more complicated than that. She shook her head. Your people wage wars because of feelings. You kill for resources. You destroy for meaning. Kale's smile faded. I know, he said. But I didn't come here to destroy anything. I just wanted to fix engines. Find silence in the noise. Selen watched him. Truly watched. He was pale still, not fully healed, but strong in a way that had nothing to do with weapons. He wore his wounds openly. Not just the physical ones. She didn't realize she'd moved until she was beside him. Her hand hovered over the scar that ran beneath his collarbone. A souvenir from the wreckage. He flinched, not in fear, but in surprise. She touched it gently. Kale looked up at her. Their faces close. Closer than Asari norms allowed. Is this permitted? He asked. I don't know, she said. Her hand stayed where it was. She felt his pulse beneath his skin. Rapid. Alive. I don't understand you, she whispered. Maybe you don't need to. For a moment, the desert seemed very far away. But then, sirens. Faint, but growing. Selen sprang to her feet. Her wristband flared. Earth Fleet drone scan, Northwest Ridge. Kale scrambled upright. They found us? No. They found something, Selen corrected. We're near the wreckage. They are here to secure it first. Without another word, they ran. The science module had landed farther than predicted, wedged between two rising stone peaks that formed a narrow gully. The module was largely intact, though its exterior was scorched and buckled in places. As Selen scanned for heat signatures, she cursed under her breath in Asari. 3. Human. Armed. Kale ducked beside her, breathing hard. How many? 3 soldiers. Scouting detail. They're searching the interior. I can get in through the lower access hatch, Kale said. It's shielded. They'll think it's fused shut. Too risky. I built the damn thing, he said. I can slip in without being noticed. Selen hesitated. Her instinct screamed no. But logic. She closed her eyes. Let her breathing sink with the soft harmonic pulses of her wristband. Centered herself. You will go alone, she said. If you are compromised, do not return here. I will survive. Kale gave her a look, almost amused. Nice pep talk. She leaned closer, pressed something into his palm. A small, spherical crystal. It records voice and image. If you die, I will still have the data. Cheerful. Then he slipped away, and Selen was left alone with the wind. 10 minutes. That was how long Selen waited before panic clawed its way into her chest. She had never felt this kind of vulnerability before. It wasn't just strategic concern. It wasn't professional duty. It was fear. Fear for him. She moved from her hiding place, sliding between rocks, ears tuned to every vibration in the air. A crack. She froze. Not from Kale. A human soldier, moving up the ridge. Alone. Rifle raised. Scanning. Selen dropped low, pulling her body tight against the rock. If he saw her, she'd have to strike quickly. But then another sound. Footsteps, soft. Scrambling. Kale. He was exiting the module, one hand clutching the data drive, the other bleeding from a shallow cut on his forearm. His eyes found hers across the canyon. He smiled. Relief surged through her so violently she almost didn't notice the soldier turning. She moved without thinking. Her body flowed across the rock. A flash of silver. Her hand caught the rifle before it fired. She twisted, brought the soldier down. A blur of motion, strike, disable, silence. It was over in seconds. Kale stared. She turned toward him, breath coming fast. You're hurt, she said. Just a scratch. He held up the data drive. But I got it. Selen didn't move toward him. She didn't trust what her body was doing. You risked your life, she said. For the truth. No, she said. For me. He didn't deny it. And she didn't stop him when he stepped forward. When he touched her face. When his forehead rested lightly against hers in the way of her people's morning ritual, adapted now for something else. Trust. It was terrifying. But she did not pull away. They walked through the night together, silent beneath the cold stars. Selen had always known the sky as a map of threats. A ceiling of potential ruin. But when Kale looked up, she did too. And for the first time, the stars didn't look cold. They looked like hope. Tuvan Rail had spent the first decade of his adult life learning how to lie without moving his mouth. In Earth Fleet Intelligence Division Omega, silence was survival. Emotion was a defect. Orders were a religion. You didn't question the chain of command. You didn't ask why. And you didn't think about the people on the other end of a directive. Until Tenebra. Until the Eventide Directive. Until Kale Thorne. Until the silence started to fracture. Tuvan had read Kale's file 3 times on the drop ship before touching down. A mechanic. Civilian clearance. Excellent performance record. No prior military involvement. Nothing that screamed danger. Nothing that explained why Central Command had flagged him as priority red. But that wasn't what bothered Tuvan. What bothered him was the phrasing of the transmission that came after the orbital station was destroyed. 0 confirmed. 1 unverified escape. Possible breach of silence protocol. Engineer designation, Thorne. Retrieve or terminate. Keep clean. Keep quiet. Clean. Quiet. 2 words Tuvan had followed for years. 2 words that suddenly sounded like orders to erase, not protect. Still, he went. Because obedience was muscle memory. Because questioning was a risk. Because that was what you did in intelligence. You obeyed first. You doubted in private. He found the crash trail near the Vale Plains, a smoldering scar across Tenebra's already tortured surface. The emergency pod had torn through miles of spiked rock before collapsing into a gully. By the time Tuven got there, Cale was gone. Blood, though, still fresh. Which meant two things: the engineer had survived, and someone had helped him. That narrowed the possibilities. Human patrols hadn't reported any civilian rescues. A sorry intervention was the only explanation. Tuven stood in the gully for an hour, staring at the sand, watching the blood soak into red soil. He didn't radio in. He didn't falsify the report. He just waited. Later, he would realize he was waiting for a reason not to finish the job. 2 days later, he spotted them. Cale and the Asari woman, tall, graceful, dangerous in a way that reminded Tuven of a blade held still. They moved through the abandoned mining corridors cautiously. Too cautious for civilians. They were looking for something. Tuven followed at a distance. He watched Cale retrieve something from a half-crushed data module, watched the woman disable a patrol soldier without lethal force. Efficient. Clean. Not quiet. The moment they vanished into the outer dunes again, Tuven returned to the wreckage. Sifted through the ash and blackened systems until he found what he suspected, a backup relay. He patched in through a wireless tool on his belt. Encrypted logs. 2 hours to decode. 3 minutes to shatter his belief in the command that had raised him. The audio file was scratchy, damaged by fire. But the voice was clear. Operation Eventide initiated. Secondary threat designation assigned to local Asari presence. Record destruction as hostile act. Prepare pretext footage for civilian feeds. Engineering staff unaware. Do not allow extraction or survivor retrieval. Cale hadn't lied. Earthfleet had killed its own. Tuven stared at the console, fingers cold. His entire training had prepared him for deception. He'd infiltrated separatist groups, sabotaged foreign operatives, played triple roles in simulations. But this wasn't a simulation. This wasn't about foreign factions. This was about them. Their own people. Their own citizens. Their own engineers. He backed out of the console. Not erasing it. Not alerting anyone. Just stepping away. Then he sat down on a pile of half-melted storage crates, covered in the soot of people who'd died for a headline. He did not move for a long time. That night, he returned to his personal outpost and broke protocol. He called her. Not HQ. Not his handler. Her. Still breathing, Rael, a soft voice teased through the encrypted line. She sounded like caffeine and starlight, even through static. Her name was Alenia V.S. Cargo runner. Smuggler. Former fleet. The woman he tried for years to forget, and failed. You're not supposed to call this channel, she said, but her tone was amused. I know. You only call when something's wrong. Tuven looked at the cracked ceiling of his shelter. You ever follow an order so long you forgot it might be wrong? Alenia was quiet. Then, Tuven. What did they make you do? He closed his eyes. Not yet. But I think they want me to. And for the first time in his career, Tuven Rael didn't know if he would. The next day, he tracked Cale again. This time, he didn't follow from the distance. He intercepted. It was just past twilight when Tuven emerged from the rocks above a shallow basin. The Asari woman had her back turned, tending to a camouflaged shelter. Cale sat inside, fiddling with a panel, probably the data crystal. Tuven took aim. Then lowered the weapon. Cale Thorne, he called down, voice amplified slightly. The reaction was immediate. The Asari spun, weapon in hand. Cale scrambled upright, shielding her. Tuven holstered his rifle. Hands raised. I'm not here to kill you. That's a funny way to start, Kale called back. Shut up and listen. Tuvin slid down the rocks carefully. When he stepped into the basin, the Asari tracked every move. Her body radiated tension. Name's Tuvin Rail, he said. Omega Division. Fleet Intel. But I'm not on mission anymore. Why? Kale asked. Decide murder was a little too messy this time. Tuvin didn't answer. He held out a drive. This has a backup of the Operation Eventide transmission. I pulled it myself. Selen stepped forward slowly. Her eyes narrowed. Why bring this to us? Tuvin's voice was quiet. Because someone has to. Kale took the drive. Inserted it into his own reader. The recording played. Same voice. Same instructions. Same chilling intent. When it finished, the three stood in silence. You saw it firsthand, Kale finally said. You knew the risk. I'm not looking to be a martyr, Tuvin replied. But I'm not a ghost, either. You're not wrong, Thorn. They're going to come. Ships, media, reinforcements. All built around a lie. Selen's posture relaxed by a degree. What do you want? To help, Tuvin said simply. Kale laughed. Hell of a time to grow a conscience. Tuvin looked at him, deadpan. Yours woke up after you dragged yourself across the desert bleeding out. Mine just took longer. They didn't trust him. Not entirely. But they didn't shoot him either. And that was enough. That night, Selen left the shelter. Kale followed. Tuvin stayed inside, watching the two figures through the tent material. They talked quietly, words lost to the wind. Tuvin let out a breath and slumped against the inner wall. Then tapped his wrist. A single message. Short. Simple. I'm not coming back. Not like that. T. He sent it to Alenia. He didn't know what she'd do with it. But maybe that was the point. Some choices were only meant to break silence. And for once in his life, Tuvin Rail wanted to be loud. Navara Sol had always been too loud for the silence of the Asari. Too quick to speak. Too bold in public assembly. Too reckless with her eyes and her heart. She'd been 16 when the elders stripped her of her role as a cultural archivist. 20 when they exiled her from the city of Virelin. 23 when she disappeared into the underworld of Tenebra and started organizing resistance groups in the geothermal zones where heat distorted sight and secrets could burn freely. Now she was 27, standing in the bioengineered ruins of a fallen outer city, watching data flicker across a stolen interface, data smuggled by her cousin, Selen, and a human who by every law should have been shot on sight. And for the first time in her life, Navara didn't know what to do. Because what she saw on the screen shattered everything. Orders. Codes. Voices of Earth Fleet Command. A plan, not to repel aggression, but to provoke it. Fabricated war. Manufactured tragedy. Humans sacrificing their own to create a myth of victimhood. All of it recorded, verified, encoded in official frequencies. She had spent years resenting them. Resisting them. But not like this. Not because of this. Not even the elders could ignore this. Not anymore. And that terrified her. I should take it directly to the council, Selen said. Her voice was steady, but Navara saw the tension in her hands. They won't believe you, Navara replied. You're bonded to a human. That already makes you suspect. Selen's expression didn't change. But her body stilled. The kind of stillness only the Asari used when they were processing pain. Kale is not, she began, then stopped. Navara raised an eyebrow. Not what? Selen didn't answer. Exactly, Navara said. You feel something for him. The council will see that before they see the evidence. Selen turned toward the window of the ruins, violet eyes shadowed. Then what do you suggest? Let me do it, Navarra said. They already hate me. At least I have nothing left to lose. That wasn't entirely true. Navarra had one thing left. His name was Jace Trellin. And he wasn't supposed to exist. Half human. Half Asari. Born to an illegal union between a rogue diplomat and an Earth pirate. Jace had grown up on the fringes, smuggling tech, maps, medicine. Learning how to disappear. He was tall, lean, with smoke-gray skin and hair like unburnt coal. His laugh made her forget everything. His kiss made her remember it all. And he was missing. Taken 2 nights ago by patrol guards loyal to Elder Varen, the most hardline traditionalist in the Asari ranks. Taken because of her. Because of their love. Navarra didn't even know if he was alive. But she would find out. Right after she burned Varen's perfect silence to the ground. The Asari capital, Kelspire, was shaped like a living maze, towering corridors of crystal and vine, all tuned to the harmonic frequencies of each caste. Navarra hadn't walked its paths in years. Not since her exile. Now she did so with her chin high, her steps echoing, dressed in ash-black robes that marked her as an independent. A traitor. A survivor. The guards at the gate didn't stop her. They recognized her. Let her pass. Not from sympathy, but from curiosity. What could the outcast possibly want? The council chamber was circular, glowing with soft blue light from the core of the city. 12 elders stood along the edges, their hands linked behind them. None wore emotion. Selen was already there, Kale beside her. Navarra saw his eyes widen slightly when he saw her. Selen did not look at him. Her loyalty was clear. But her gaze lingered on Navarra for a long, unspoken second. Then it was time. Navarra stepped forward and held out the drive. Truth, she said. Wrapped in your silence. Hidden in the blood of the dead. Varen stepped forward, robes lined in silver. The words of an exile mean little. Then let the voices of your enemies speak instead, Navarra said. She activated the projection. Voices filled the room. Kales. Tuvins. Earthfleet commanders authorizing destruction. Operation Eventide. Manufactured narratives. Warnings of incoming occupation. When it ended, no one moved. Except for Elder Varen. He stepped forward and clapped his hands once, a sharp, cold sound. Well done, he said softly. You have brought us the storm. Navarra narrowed her eyes. This is the storm. He tilted his head. No. This is only the beginning. Now we must decide whether we become lightning, or stay beneath the clouds. The chamber erupted in whispers. The elders turned to each other. But Varen's eyes were locked on her. And then, guards appeared. 6. Armed. Kale tensed. Selen stepped between him and the newcomers. Varen raised a hand. Seize the exile, he said. She traffics with human sympathizers. She is not to be trusted. Navarra took a step back. Kale lunged forward. She brought you proof. Silence, Varen snapped. The guards moved. But then another voice echoed through the chamber. It was soft. Strained. But familiar. Navarra. Jace. He stumbled forward from behind one of the side halls. Bruised. Bloodied. But alive. Still standing. Navarra ran to him. Held him up. Varen turned. His voice sharpened. He is not Asari. He is a corruption. His existence is a heresy. I don't care, Navarra snarled. She rose, eyes burning. Listen to me. Every war we've avoided, every silence we've kept, it was never for peace. It was for control. You let us believe the humans were monsters. But I've seen monsters. They don't look like Kale. They look like men who burn their own kind to raise flags. A murmur spread through the chamber. Then Elder Kyria, Selen's mother, stepped forward. I vote to recognize this evidence, she said quietly. To prepare a defensive assembly. To stop the war before it begins. One by one, others followed. Varen did not. But he was outnumbered. By the time the vote passed, he was silent. Again. Hours later, as Kelspire prepared to send its first peace broadcast in over a generation, Navarra stood at the edge of the city's outer platform, Jace beside her, the stars overhead. I thought I lost you, she whispered. You did, he said. But I found my way back. She turned toward him, pressing her forehead gently to his, a gesture of truth. No more hiding, she said. No more pretending, he replied. Their kiss was not desperate, not hungry, not even fierce. It was quiet. Like the kind of fire that never forgets.